approximately 29%, which is slightly higher than the 26% average we had last year. This bubble chart shows ranges of increases members are seeing, and the larger the circle, the more members are impacted. As you can see, most will fall close to the average for 2025. However, there are outliers that are generally driven by more significant changes in your exposures. And one of the most common drivers was changes to your workers' compensation mod. Finally, this new section that everyone will see on their assessment invoice shows you how your exposures have changed from year to year and what the impact of those exposure changes will be on your assessment. This section on top shows how the exposures change, and the section below is how those changes impact your final assessment. Starting up top, we can see how this member's property values and payroll changed. In this case, this member had a very large increase to their property values, which resulted because they added a new building. The addition of their new building resulted in an increase in their assessment. They also saw a reduction in their mod, which went from 0.91 to 0.82, and that resulted in a decrease in their assessment. Even if rates didn't change for 2025, this member would have still seen a $27,225 increase to their assessment, which was driven largely by the addition of the new building. Finally, we wanted to show you what the increase from our rate increase will be for you for next year. I want to thank you again for your time and support of our program. If there's anything you ever need, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or any member of the music team.
Sorry about that. Gina said I'm going to pick up the audio, but the video is streaming.
Okay.
Okay. Our assessment looks very similar to that with all of those increases and decreases. So in the next slide, you will see that our 2024 assessment was $883,000. Our exposure changes. That is the increase in all of our square footage of $54,513. I mentioned that our workman's comp mod decreased. That is a decrease of $32,435. As they explained, the rate increase that goes to everybody for us is $178,810. So overall, we are taking an 18% increase, not the average of 25% they spoke about, for a final total due to music of $1,084,185. I will keep in mind that this is an increase for the second year in a row. So very needed, very necessary.
Last year, was the increase due to our square footage as well? Or
Our square footage and all of the experience as well, because they saw an increase in those storms and all of those at that time period. So past comparisons for you. As you can see where we will stand in 2025, all I did was take a year off of this. You will see that we have increased slightly. Membership credits have been given up until 2023. We did not have one in the last 2 years due to all of the additional costs they have incurred all the way across. It's just insurance right now.
Nobody got a.
No one got that, no. Just as if you have been seeing increases in your own personal, home insurance, et cetera, this is what we're seeing as well. Questions here?
Yes,
Yes.
one question. So what part of our new construction is still considered in builder's risk versus being covered by the
The high school project.
The whole thing is
The whole project?
Most of it, most of the auditorium and that, yes. It is all still there because they are still working on all of those things, even though
Same
we've
with the
taken.
gym and
The gym is, yes, we've kept that under the builder's risk, most of it, so.
And that will cover it for all of 2025? under
Yeah,
the building?
as soon as we've done substantial completion on that, so we're waiting on the other pieces to come in. All of that will come off at that time. I think we added the gym, we're waiting on the remodel in builder's
But
risk.
we won't pay a premium on it until 26?
Correct.
Okay.
So we'd expect
We'll expect another increase, correct.
yeah, very good.
Because this year we also added, because this year we're paying for Truman even though we were done a year in advance. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
I will draw your attention to the umbrella liability. That is an additional coverages. That doesn't include cyber pollution with sovereign immunity, automobile accidents, property conditions, negligence. That is also included in our policy. So as of tonight,
The umbrella is a separate.
it is a separate quote, and that is coming at a later date on this slide, correct? We do not have that amount yet, so we will come back to that probably February, I believe is when it comes in. So as of this time, I need an approval for the 2025 renewal for insurance coverages with music, check number 166348, in the amount of $1,084,185, with the umbrella quote to come in later.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 renewal for insurance coverages with music and approve the check payment for $1,084,185.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank
All in
you.
favor? Aye. Those opposed? Thank you, Dr. Fulton.
Thank you.
Would it be safe to assume that our umbrella liability policy will also probably have an increase?
Yes,
I'd imagine. yeah.
it will.
All right.
I think I'm up again.
You are up again. Dr. Fulton. Request for positions in action.
Yes. So we come to you this evening with the need of some additional positions. We have had an increase in enrollment in our early childhood program and with IEP needs. So we are asking this evening for the addition of an early childhood special education teacher at Wyman due to increased enrollment and IEP needs. The budget impact, keep in mind, this is for a full year, at a master step 16 is approximately $78,000. That includes salary and all benefits. That is part one. Because we are asking for an early childhood special education teacher, we will also need an early childhood special education paraprofessional to assist that person to meet the needs of the students' IEPs. Estimated salary right now for one semester is $20,593 with approximately almost $8,000 in benefits, so a total of $28,577. Number three. This year, we have had an increase in referrals for Parents as Teachers program. So, and part of that is due to the community partnership has lost some type of funding in a program. And so they served some of our families with those early childhood needs. When they lost that, all of the referrals have been coming back to our program. And we work with them very well. They notified us of those things that they would be referring people to us. With that, their caseloads have grown, and we are in need of an additional paraeducator due to those additional referrals coming in. And I know our numbers have been low in the past few years, but as, you know, Mrs. Brown has been working, those numbers have gone back up, I believe, to pre-COVID times, I believe, for those referrals, correct? So the budget impact, yearly salary approximately of $14,000. Questions so far? Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the 3 positions.
Thank you, Sue.
I'll second.
Thank you, Charlotte.
I
All those in-
would just point out, just keep in mind, the ECSE positions are reimbursable.
Reimbursable.
So we get those a year in arrears, but anything we spend this year, we would be reimbursed for next year. So we recoup those expenses.
And these are just for second semester, and then we'll reassess for enrollment for the following year, or?
We do look at
We
enrollment
look every
every
year.
year. This is actually a position that we cut at the end of last year. We had someone who left, and we did not fill that based on our enrollment needs, knowing that as we have kiddos that become eligible by age, and as we identify more students, that there's always that potential. And so that's pretty much what has happened as they have come to us this first semester. So just making preparations for second semester.
Perfect.
And some of these students, or some of these, you know, students and children are 3. So there is a very, more than likely chance we will need them again next year.
Absolutely. Perfect.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Dr. Fulton.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the school improvement plans. An update from Rolla Junior High.
I know, well, I was actually going to joke. two things. As you can see, my husband is a man of few words. I am not. I have a lot to say, as does Mrs. Johnson, but something else that she just pointed out, she says, don't break the mic. You guys know I'm loud. That's why we had Jeremy Jameson do another voice recording at Rolla Junior High, because it was just too loud when people called over there and heard me. So I'm humble enough to know that. So anyways, we'll go ahead and start. So Chelsea and I are very proud to be here tonight to present our building improvement plan with you. We are proud to not only do it on behalf of both of us, but on the behalf of all staff and students that walk those hallways over there. All of them love that building as much as we do, so we are very proud to be here. So without further ado, we will get started. So at this time, you can see on our first slide that our goals have not changed. These are still the same as they were last year. They are pretty lofty goals, but of course, as you know, we always want to do, we have high expectations for our students and our staff at Rolla Public Schools. And so we did not change those. We are very determined to eventually reach them. So I'm not going to spend much time on that. We'll go to the next slide. The very first thing that I would like to talk about is academic success. Of course, this is the main reason that we are where we are and what we are doing. And we are very proud of all of the things that we're doing at Rolla Junior High. As you can see on this slide, I know that Dr. Welch has already presented the map data to you in a prior meeting, so I'm not going to go over that, but we are going to present our STAR assessment scores. And right here, what you can see is you have two sets of data. You have the fall of last year compared to the spring of this year, spring of 24, for our reading classes. And are there any questions about this slide before I move on? Yes.
Just one question. So when you go to spring,
Yes.
does the benchmark change?
Yes.
So they're 9 months older or whatever, so it's
Right. So you're talking about the decrease in scores?
no?
No.
Well, they're about the same, say, or.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
but they're measuring against a different benchmark.
Correct. And we have discussed this at length since we've gotten this data. We have talked a lot about it. We want to make sure that obviously we are always increasing as the year goes on. And so our goal is to ensure that we are doing everything we can to make sure our students are getting what they need. And one of the major changes that we're going to make this year is that we did find almost half of our students, our reading students, took the assessment in the spring during map testing or after map testing. And so now that we've caught that, the discussion is now in that window opens up in early April, so we're really going to push all of them, and they know we're now going to assess that STAR at that time in early April, weeks before we get to map testing. So that is one major change that we're going to do there. Next, we have our STAR math distribution from fall to spring. As you can see, we had quite the increase as far as we had a drop of almost, I would say, 13% that went from at risk out of that category up to either approaching or meets the standards, meets expectations. And so we're pretty proud of those scores right there as well. So here's what we're doing at Rolla Junior High. I'm not going to go over all of these at length because we covered a lot of this last year. I would say that you've seen these. The one that I really want to comment on this slide is the walk and read program. That is new this year, and we are testing the waters, we shall say. And so how that came about is we did a survey back in the spring asking our staff, what kind of professional development do you want to see for this next year? What do you think this building really needs? And one of the responses, and many of the responses obviously came from our ELA teachers, is how do we get kids to love reading. And I thought, well, gosh, if Chelsea and I could figure that out, we probably wouldn't have to work here. We would have, right, that's a nationwide or worldwide thing. But we just sat down and we had a discussion one day, and I said, Chelsea, I remember when my son was little, he hated to read because he hated sitting still. He just couldn't do it. He'd rather be running around, getting his little cars everywhere, riding his bike. And I thought if he could have been up moving as he was reading, that probably would have helped. And so we just kind of were throwing things back and forth like we always do. We call it throwing spaghetti at the wall. And she said, what if we got them up and moving as they're reading? And I said, let's do this. And so we kind of came up with this walk and read thing. They come down during Pride time every Monday. And they just walk around that gym and they read. And I know it sounds super simple and maybe, I don't know, we're going to collect data. But we're excited about it right now. And the kids are enjoying it. And I'm not going to lie, I walk and read sometimes too. So it's a pretty enjoyable thing. And, we found research to back this. There's lots of research that shows that even adults that walk and read, if you listen to your audiobook as you're walking, you actually have better memory of what you read or what you heard. So just enough on that, but we'll go to the next slide.
I will add, they
Yeah.
do come, they do seek us out. Is Walk and Read today?
Yeah.
If they want to know, they do enjoy
Yeah.
it. It's a core group of kids that are down there. It's really neat.
Yeah, I would say we probably have 15 to 20 kids that come down there every Monday. And obviously it's one of those things where the teacher asks them, do you want to walk down there as you're reading your book? And so the kids, they get to choose if they come down there or not. And so we're building a core group. Next up, this is everything we're doing for our academic success also. I kind of feel like I'm not loud enough, but this is, am I fine?
You're good.
Okay. I feel like you need the mic from Rolla Junior High. Mandy got to hear me one day and she was scared. So, okay, well, I'll move on. So you can see on this slide, we are doing the same thing that we've always done. We have done all of this last year, except for the Bulldog 180 program. We are very excited about that program, and I'm going to let Chelsea's going to introduce that and talk about that in a little bit. How do we know that we're successful at Rolla Junior High? A lot of this we have used in the past, STAR data, we will continue to use. PAIR was formerly Edulastic. We really like that program. It has a lot of really valuable data, and history and science is using that. MAP data, of course, unit assessments, and our benchmark assessments that we are looking at to see where kids are at the end of the year. You saw this last year as well. This is what we call our academic seminar tiered intervention. I will say we have some pretty powerful data from this. Last year we came up with this in October to really intervene with students that were having problems getting papers turned in, getting homework turned in. And so we sat down with our two counselors, Chelsea and I did, and we're like, how can we come at this at a very layered approach? And so real quick, our data from last year, we didn't start until October of last year. And at the end of Q1 last year, we had 9.5% of students that had at least one F on their grade card at the end of Q1. This year, since we started in August, we had that full 9 weeks. We had only 5.9% of students that had Fs at the end of Q1. So we're hoping, we're going to continue to track the data there, and we are hoping it just gets better and better. Because we are improving it every time we meet. What else can we do to make this better?
I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
I'd seen in your building goals that you do the tracking with the F list and, of course, the Ds and Fs.
Yes.
Is there any way that you guys track when a kid has a sudden drop? Let's say they're normally an A student. Now they're all of a sudden getting Cs, maybe not Fs, but so they might not hit this, but how do you catch that kid that's maybe had something happen and all of a sudden their grades are not what they normally are?
So I tell you what, that is where our teachers come in. They are the epitome of professionalism, and they are on top of everything. We never fail to have a teacher email us if they are concerned about a child, a sudden drop in grades, or they're seeing even a change in behavior, that is never a problem. You know, we always prompt them. I send out that academic seminar spreadsheet every Monday, and I tell them, they have well, and I don't want to say a mandate, but they have basically our rules of which students to put in there. And we have no problem with that being told to us.
Kind of a reporting system between you and the teachers.
Yes, yeah. We send out that spreadsheet every week, and they will put any concern in there. There is a column that even says, are there specific concerns with this child? And so it's even a communication tool where I type back as well in another column about what I did or anything further that we're going to do. And so there's a lot of communication back and forth through that spreadsheet with the teachers. Okay. Yeah. All right. That is it, and Chelsea's going to present on attendance.
So I'm so short. We're following the district model for attendance, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we're doing a lot of what the other buildings are doing. So I'm going to try just to keep it specific to us. We do have a trend up in attendance for our proportional attendance rate. So you can see we've gone up over the last few years. I think that's true of most people at this point. We are trying to do frequent monitoring. This year, we're trying to run attendance reporting every 1 to 2 weeks. And that's something that after I run that attendance report, I sit with our counselors. I have a spreadsheet as well. And we go through that spreadsheet, talk about students. I have written in that spreadsheet, have I contacted home? Or what are the reasons for attendance? Am I getting responses from parents? I share that out with our team, Tori and our 2 counselors, and I ask them, do you know something about this family? And it just keeps us all on the same page. And so, there are students that are gone for legitimate reasons, and so we're able to see those in that piece, and we're just making sure those students are getting that support. If the students are getting all of the support they're needing, then we know that they're being taken care of. If none of us are hearing anything or we're not getting responses, then we're taking that district next step and moving into the liaison. So, which has been amazing, by the way. I want to praise everybody for that because it has really, really been a huge game changer for us. But we're just trying to stay on top of it, make sure we're doing frequent meetings for us, frequent monitoring, messaging parents on Parent Square, which has been great, and calling home. If we notice a kid's been gone and we haven't heard anything in the next few days, our attendance secretary will call me, hey, I've not heard anything, this parent's not verified anything, what do you want me to do? I want you to make a phone call, let's figure out where this kid is. So we're just really trying to stay on top of it as early as we can and being as proactive as we can because it becomes very, very difficult and a huge task if we're not. First hour competition for donuts, and of course we have our one-on-one conversations that we do during Pride. We do that on Fridays, and our teachers are able to have conversations with their Pride class, which is essentially their mentorship class, about their attendance as well. So those are some of those things we were already doing, but things that are specific to the junior high. Check-in meetings with the community liaison. Like I said, I just want to stress the importance of that, the flexibility that she allows us, and the ability of resources that we are not aware of. We have a great counseling department, but it's nice because we can't just get up and leave all the time, and neither can she, but we can at least all together figure out a plan on how we're going to help that. And we've had a lot of parents accept support from us because it's not us calling and seeing like they're in trouble. We've been able to have a whole different approach to it, which has been great.
I just wanted to add, we had a couple weeks ago a mom call and said, I just can't get my son there. I can't get him out of the house. And so one of our counselors, Mrs. Thessing, called Ashley, and they went and helped the mom, and they were able to get the child there that day. I mean, she is just, what she is helping us with is invaluable. I want you guys to know that. So it's pretty cool.
All right, you're up with climate and culture. Any questions on attendance?
I love seeing those numbers go up. That's awesome.
Yeah. So climate and culture, I want you guys, one thing that I want to say about this is a pretty big focus for us. That's okay. One big quote that I have always and stuff that something that we say to each other all the time is that culture eats strategy for breakfast every day of the week. And so we truly believe that climate and culture drives everything, and so that's why it's vitally important to us. So we'll go on into all of things that we are doing. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. It's the same thing that we were doing last year. Anything that we're doing different this year, we're going to expand on here in a minute, but that's everything that we're doing right there. I'm going to talk about a couple of those in a minute. One thing before we go on to the next slide, though, is that the Bulldog Buck Cabinet, we do want to take this time to thank all of the supporters out there that have sent in items, our monetary donations, especially the core board. They have been very supportive in getting the word out there. Our students absolutely love and adore that Bulldog Buck Cabinet. It provides a way for a lot of those students to buy things that they would never have a chance to do outside of outside of that building. So we're very thankful for that.
We've got lots of really cool stuff in it this year. It's amazing. If you ever get a chance to stop by and you want to check it out, come on in, because it's neat looking. They've got a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely. We can go to the next one. Still more of the same. A lot of this is not new. We continued with a lot that we did last year. The 2 or 3 things that we added in, we're going to talk about on, I believe, in a couple of slides. So how do we know we succeeded? Occasional surveys for our staff. We love to send out surveys to our staff to see how we're doing and how we can grow. Also get their opinion on what's next. Where should we go from here? And so we always love to get their feedback. Also annual surveys that we send out as a district to the parents and students. Individual conversations with staff. We see them every day. One of our main goals is to be out in our building every single day and get into every single classroom, and also our daily interactions with the students. So I'm going to talk about these 2 pieces that we added this year. We did add what we call advisory meetings with the Counselor's Corner. The advisory meetings, we really were talking about a lot of our students are not hearing, and not a lot, but they're not maybe getting some advice at home, like how to advocate for yourself and how to handle tough relationships at school, how to handle that tough bullying situation, and exactly what you could say to that student. We always want to be proactive rather than reactive, and so we're really bringing up those conversations with the kids. And so we actually have one coming up next week for the whole student body, and I have to say, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but it's going to be a pretty special one. We're going to record it, and we're going to put it on Facebook, because Mr. Jameson is going to shave off his beard in the middle of the advisory meeting and talk
Santa.
about
Shaving his beard.
Santa is shaving his beard, okay? And he's going to talk about resilience. And we're also going to talk about, that's one of the main topics next Wednesday, is how to be resilient and have a mindset of resiliency. But we're also going to talk about how being uncomfortable in a situation versus anxiety. And so we really want the kids to know the difference between those 2 things as well. And so we just are really... a recent conversation that I had is that even if it doesn't resonate now, what I've learned with my own kids who are in their 20s, they have even said to me, Mom, you might not have thought we were listening back then, but we hear it now. We remember what you said. And so I thought, how cool is that maybe 10 years from now, these kids go, do you remember when Mr. Jameson shaved off his beard and talked about being resilient? And I'm hoping that that's the impact that we made. And of course, we always want to repeat, because that's all we do anyways as educators. We're going to repeat ourselves all the time. Another thing that we're pretty proud of, initiative we started this year, is I am striving to make 2 positive parent phone calls every day. Our goal is to make a positive phone call to every parent by May, because we are trying to change the narrative that we're not just going to call home when your kid is in trouble. We want to get those positive phone calls out there, so that is what we're striving to do. And I'm also striving to send a weekly email to students to really also repeat all of the values we hold dear. Let's be people of integrity. Let's always do the right thing. Remember to treat people how you want to be treated. And so it's just trying to push that positive narrative out there all the time. Okay.
The last piece of the culture and climate that we want to discuss is Bulldog 180. Last year, Tori and I went to a MOAS meeting, and while we were there, they were presenting on the 180 program. And I do a lot of discipline. I don't do a lot, but I do discipline throughout the day. That's the primary role that I play. And while I was there, Tori and I kind of looked at each other, and I think we just knew, we jived that way. And I said, I want to do this, and she said, I want to do it too. And so we immediately figured out, how can we make this happen? So our goal of this program is to, once again, be proactive. Our hope is that we're going to provide support to students, parents, staff, allow these students to get some of the skills that they need in order to be resilient, to make good choices, to advocate for themselves in an appropriate manner, and how to handle some of those tough situations, work on setting goals for themselves. There's a lot. So I'm not going to go through every piece of that focus, but you can see up here, we have a lot in our Bulldog 180 focus. It has been kind of walking at first, and the program itself has really taken off. We've started very small. We're shooting about 5 kids a class, and we're just seeing how it goes. And it's a really flexible program, and I think that's important, and I'm getting ready to tell you why. But we look a lot at conflict resolution and some of those other pieces. And if you look at this slide here, this is dummy data. This is not real data. But this is how we look at our students for Bulldog 180 placement. We use highly the number of referrals. That's the primary source of Bulldog 180 placement, is how often are students getting in trouble in school. We also use attendance, so you see our ADA there, their GPA and their grades, if they have D's or F's, and it's calculated with an at-risk score. So this was adopted from the program that spoke to us at our MOAS meeting. And when those students get that score, it gives us an opportunity to have a conversation and see, what is that student lacking? Where are we not providing support, or where could we be providing support for that student? Do they need conflict resolution? Are they trying to advocate for themselves when they're acting out? Are they trying to speak to a teacher that seems disruptive or disrespectful, but really they do have something to say? Can we teach them how to do those things? And so we get to work with our Bulldog 180 teacher, who is Miss Tillema. And we have an opportunity to come in. We meet as a team, so Tori, myself, our 2 counselors meet. We discuss what needs this student might have, and we are able to go in, and I'm able to say, Ms. Tillema, I really want you to focus on these kinds of things with this student. And the kids are even able to come in. I call the parents. I tell the parents, this is what I'm thinking. These are what I'm noticing. What are you noticing at home? And we get to partner on that and really decide, is this what's best for this student? I'll be honest, I was super nervous to make these phone calls at the beginning of the year. Like, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to call these parents that I talked to a lot last year, and see what happens. And I did it before school started, right when I came on contract. It was the very first thing I did, and I loved every conversation I had. I had talked to these parents, we had a relationship, and I came in knowing I can change this kid with this program, and we have it here at RJH. And so it was a great conversation. This is data that we have. Last year, by December 1, we had 73 students with 133 events of ISS or OSS. This year, we had 59 events with 36 students. So is Bulldog 180 the primary answer? No. But it is a piece of it, and I really wonder, what could we have intervened on? What could we have done with those numbers if we had created this program sooner, if we had implemented this program sooner? So I have some other data in there. One thing I do want to say before you read that student feedback, because I'm not going to read it to you, because I'll probably cry, but because I am a baby, is this program is meant to be flexible. It is meant to meet the kids where they're at. So if we have high behaviors, then that's what we're going to be looking for whenever we're talking about Bulldog 180. If we have low attendance and that's our primary need for student population, then that's going to be something we're going to focus on. If we have low grades but ADA is okay and referral numbers are okay, we're going to probably work on academics in there. So it's going to flex every year depending on what our student population has, and I think that's what is really powerful about it. It's going to be able to look different based off of what our students need, because that is what really Rolla Junior High is about, and really junior high itself is about. So I'm going to let you look at these last few slides on your own. The first one is student feedback, and then the next one is actually staff feedback from our RJH teachers who have students in the program but are not the teachers. Oh, sorry.
So now we are to our summary, and I'm not going to spend much time on this. I just want to talk about a couple of things on each slide that we're very proud about. As you can see on the bottom right, we have a young man with his fishing pole and his fish that he is very proud of. And so one thing that we did this year is we implemented, I would say, an additional 7 to 8 clubs, because our goal is to get students involved. Research shows that involved students are happy students, and they are also working harder in their academics, and also it affects mental health as well. And so we're just very proud of this. The fishing club probably has about 25 kids now, has grown from 15 up to 25 or 30. They go once a month, except for this last month when it was like 20-some degrees outside. I said, Mr. Jacob, that was smart to cancel that. But they are going once a month to local lakes, and their final fishing trip, I believe in April or May, they are going to Merrimack Springs, and they're going to do some trout fishing. So we are very happy about that. Also, right next to that, to the left, you will see that we had a rock, paper, scissor day. One thing that we are very happy about at Rolla Junior High is that we have a lot of fun, and we make sure that the kids want to be there and that they are having fun all of the time, because we want them in the building and we want them to be a part of our student body. So that's something we're pretty happy about. And then on the next slide, if you will look at the very left, yes, that is a picture of cheerleaders, but that is also a picture of school pride. And so that's something that we want to instill in our kids every single day, is to be proud of Rolla Junior High and Rolla Public Schools. And so that is something that we are always discussing as well. And then the very last thing is the very far right picture on the bottom. That is our cardiac response team. And we spent quite a few hours trying to get that done and get all of us on the same page, get us certified in CPR, and get us registered. And I tell you what, Stephanie Wanaka did a fantastic job with that and just really worked diligently to ensure that we had that. And so that's something that we're very proud of at our building. And I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
I do.
Okay.
I was gonna give those. So, Randy, last meeting you gave, in your presentation, you gave us some potential growth opportunities, basically for academic growth is one of them that I'm going to refer to. Should that not be in our future CSIPs, building CSIPs?
For academic growth?
For academic growth, because they changed the way they calculated growth this year, and
I see what you're saying. So
And
rather
we're-
than just the
we're down in
academic
the first
status,
quartile of
academic
growth.
growth, how that's calculated, yes,
but
yes.
I would think that would be important to us, maybe to raise that up, and you listed that last month. I will note that the junior high's math numbers were in the approaching, but it wasn't enough to pull up our total score, so.
Yeah. Ultimately, all of the things that we have listed in our academic section of that plan should impact both of those areas. So the status scores as well as the growth scores.
Yeah, I would think, though, that we want to, I guess, specify that it is important to us.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
don't know how they calculate it.
Right.
They don't either.
Yeah,
Better
it is
performance gets you up there, but I can't believe that we would be in the first
Right.
quartile.
We could certainly set a sub-goal in regards to like a certain percentage that we would want to see that increase over time.
But
Absolutely.
it's based on the performance, but it's the performance of the people that are already, performing well. They
Right.
still have to have the growth.
Right. It's complicated.
Yeah, it is.
But ultimately, if students are improving, right, then we should see growth from students from fall to spring. That would be our goal, which is why we do look at that information on our local assessments as well as the state assessments, just to give us a multiple measures to look at. MAP data is important, but it's only one piece of that picture, so.
Well, but the MAP data showed what the STAR data showed for math, that we had a better performance at the end of the year, a success for the junior high.
Absolutely.
Which is what she was talking about,
Yeah.
just kind of trying to think through why that's happening, what can we
Yeah.
do to maybe potentially remove some of those barriers, give a better picture of, if you will, of how students are performing. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like I said, there's been numerous discussions. I know one thing that's also going to help is that we no longer have NWEA. We just have STAR. And the reason that's a positive is because that eliminated yet another assessment. We now have more time to spend on curriculum. We also can have more of a focus on the STAR data instead of spreading us so thin to look at all of those data pieces. And so that is something that we are focusing on as well, is really narrowing the focus so that we are going a mile deep and an inch wide instead of a mile wide and an inch deep. And so that is really the goal, is to start narrowing all that down. But I will tell you that we were very proud of our MAP scores because all of them went up in every category, except for science dropped down at 3%, but they always fluctuate in that area. But I believe 7th grade math went about 8 or 9%, 8th grade math went up 10%, 8th grade ELA went up 1.5 or 2%, and 7th grade ELA went up about 4%. And I do have that memorized because I was pretty happy about it.
And when you're given the percentages, are you talking about proficient and advanced totals? or-
I am, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Those combined totals and measured.
Yeah.
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 And again, those are different cohorts of students, so it's a little bit like comparing apples to oranges. But I
Yeah.
will tell you, each of those teams have been very diligent in sitting down and looking at that data and trying to identify what are things that they know that they're doing well, that they want to continue to reinforce, or where are there opportunities to continue to improve. So
Yeah.
they're definitely doing the work.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
appreciate that question.
You guys
Anybody else?
You guys did a great job.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Love
Thank
your
you.
energy and
Great
your
progress. Yeah, love
enthusiasm.
the
Thank
energy.
you. We appreciate that.
At this time, we would like to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you so much.
After you,
Thank you, sir.
no Maria tonight.
No, she would have a chance.
Welcome back. Back to our school improvement plans. We have Rolla High School. Thank
Hi.
you, Dr. Ray.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's good to be here. So for those people at home, my name is Dr. Corey Ray. I am accompanied by my assistant principals, Ms. Lacey Colby, Mr. Josh Smith, and Dr. Stephanie Grisham. We're happy to be here tonight to present our school improvement plan. Our goals are similar as last year. They're not going to change over the next 5 years. That's our intention. We start off with 60% of our students in math, biology, and government. We're going to reach at the proficient and advanced level. And likewise for English, we're going to have 65% of our students reach that advanced or proficient level by the end of the 28-29 school year. So based upon the data that you see in front of you, we have some work to do. So this graphic shows where our goals are currently set with the red column versus our performance on those respective assessments through the state. Now, to be fair, the state issued a new testing platform for the high school, okay? So it's a platform that we were able to get data back in a more efficient, more timely manner, because really to make positive change towards any performance for our students, we have to know what the data says. Where are we performing where are our growth opportunities? And this year we got our data back in such a way that I was able to take the data, break it down by subject area, and then be able to disseminate the information to the teachers so that they know exactly where we're at and what we need to do to improve. And along those lines, to improvements to make our goal, we've done things such as offer release time for our teachers. For example, they will be released during the school day. We will have substitutes for them for that particular school day. They will work together as a group. For biology, let's say, the science group this fall worked on aligning their curriculum to the peer assessment tool that Dr. Snicker spoke about, which is a tool that helps model the type of tests that our biology students will be seeing in the spring. The math department just was released today, and they did some work for both geometry and Algebra 1, and working with their EDIA platform. That's what they use to measure their student success, both from a homework and a testing platform. And then the social studies, we called schools. You know, we get a report that we can see where schools are doing well, and we try to find schools that are like Rolla, that have similar graphics, similar size. Call them up. What are you guys doing? How are you performing well? What does it look like? And seeing what we can do to apply some of those aspects to what it is that we're doing. So just really looking to do a better job of using data to drive instruction now that we have the data, because before it was later. So a good portion of our professional development days are now dealing with student performance. We're trying to get back to the Rick DeFore professional learning model for teachers, and asking the 4 questions: what do we want students to know and be able to do? How will we know that they learn it? How will we respond when students don't learn? And then what will we do to extend learning for those students that did learn those concepts that we wanted to do? So they have a sheet that they fill out. They sit down with their groups. They sit down and talk about the data, whatever the time frame is. It's usually between one professional development day to another, so probably a 3-week process, exactly looking at what our kids are going to be doing over those 3 weeks and answering those 4 questions. So trying to get back to that model, which kind of fell away, post-COVID, as many things have. And then we're looking to see about the schedule itself, adjusting the testing schedule. How can we make that experience better for our kids? How can we put them in a better position to succeed? I think the junior high did a similar thing this past year and saw some good results with that. So we're also looking to do that. Okay? So, any questions about student performance and our goals? All right. The next slide is about student attendance, and that will be Mrs. Colby.
Good evening. So I'm here to talk about attendance, something that we're very passionate about, as we know that attendance is directly related to our students' successes. So as you can see, our attendance is holding steady over the last 3 years, but we are still above the state level, and so we should be pretty proud of that. One of the things that I want to comment on is that we do use a data-driven approach, to help our students through. However, with the addition of Ashley Grisham and working with our students, I feel like we've been able to provide a more holistic approach to helping our students. She joins us each week in our cabinet meetings as we go over students that we're concerned about, and we talk about the reasons that they're needing our support. So for our students who are at the Tier 2 and Tier 3 level, so they're missing from 18 and upwards percentage, their attendance is just that poor. We send her out to their houses and she makes home visits. And there are several students who have came in after she's made a home visit and are back to attending school. So we're very appreciative of her efforts in that. RHS is unique when compared to other schools in our district because in high school we have that 8-day attendance policy. So students who have missed over 8 days go into the attendance appeal process and they're appealing for their credits. And so in that process, I sit each week with our attendance appeal committee and we go over each student's specific circumstances, and then we make a determination. Do we go ahead and grant those credits, or do we not? If it turns out that we have to deny their credits for, whatever reason that may be, we have an added layer of support for our students through Dr. Ray. So he sits with each of our students with a parent. They have to come in with a parent with them, and they start going over what are some opportunities we can offer them so they can go ahead and earn credit back. And while we can't count that towards our attendance, in the end, what it does do is give our students an opportunity to graduate, and we know how important that is for our kids. In addition to attendance, tardiness at the high school is a significant focus for us because it's our #1 disciplined area. And so, especially that first hour period is hard for our kids to get there. We make phone calls, we encourage them, we also give some tough love when needed. We want them there and learning. We're looking now into changing some discipline policies. What can we do to help them get there? What matters to them to get them there with us? So we're focusing on that coming soon. Also, in terms of tardiness, in the world of high school, we are preparing them to be good citizens, to be able to be prompt to work and be, awesome contributing members to our society. And so while tardiness, is a not so bad problem to have really in the grand scheme of the behaviors that we could be seeing, it's an important skill for us, to help our students build. We're also placing a heavy emphasis on finding strategies to incentivize attendance for our students. In years past, there were some attendance activities and incentives that were going on, but throughout COVID, that kind of went by the wayside a little bit. And so we're currently looking into incentives for our high schoolers. I threw out, I think we should have like an old school play day for them. I know they're high schoolers, but they still love to play. They especially love to play with their teachers and principals, and they like to have that interaction. And so I hope that we can get that going soon. Any questions?
Yeah, are you still doing the sweeping policy for sweeping
The
up
tardies.
tardies?
So Dr. Grisham is going to talk more about tardies coming up, but no, we're not sweeping anymore. Instead, we have teachers that are stationed at the bathrooms during that time and making sure the bathroom area is safe. And we have a new Smart Pass system, and that's how we're tracking tardies for our students.
You're taking all her stuff.
I didn't give details. I did not give details.
All right, you're on the hook for details.
Now, before I start, I will tell Miss Colby, this is her first year, and she said she was not nervous, but I know she was, so good job. We appreciate, she's done a really good job, and we appreciate her. So the next goal we have is that 96% of our students will graduate with their four-year cohort. That is our Student Success Ready goal. As you see there in our chart, we do a good job with our graduation rate, especially compared to the state average, and especially where we were 3 or 4 years ago. It has slightly decreased here the last couple of years, so we've looked at a few things to try to see how we can adjust things to try to get it back to the 96%. We're at 92.9 right now. The first thing we've done this year is we have revised how we have utilized our staff at the Learning Center to try to increase the capacity over there. As you guys know, that's where our students go that aren't being very successful at the high school, and there's been a few times the last few years where we really haven't had room for some students that needed to be in there. And so we adjusted some things. It's worked so far. We actually, in fact, have a meeting tomorrow with all of our staff and the staff over there to talk about students for next semester and making sure that we get all the students that need to be there for next semester. Over at the high school, we are investigating, similar to the Bulldog 180, things we can do at the high school to give students the skills that maybe we don't make it where we need to get to the Learning Center, and try to give them some more resiliency, just things that we need to do. We've always done some things in our advisory and our pride time, but obviously kids are different than they were 5 years ago, and what can we do different? Dr. Ray and I just actually set through a Zoom on Monday of a program that really doesn't work logistically for us, but it had some good ideas, and that's what we're just trying to look with our staff, with our logistics, what we can do to help the kids at the high school. And lastly, with the graduation is we want our students to be career ready. Obviously, that's the goal, is when they're done that we're setting them up for success. This year we did change. We're changing how we're doing the testing at the high school. We've always kind of made our students take the ASVAB as their sophomore year. Obviously, they could opt out if they wanted to. Junior year, they took the ACT. We offered the ACT. This year, we decided that we're just going to test the juniors. We're going to offer the ACT. We're going to offer the ASVAB, and eventually, we're going to get to the AccuPlacer. So we kind of, they're testing where they want to test. Get the military bound an option, give the tech bound an option with the AccuPlacer, and then your college bound an option with the ACT. So we're looking forward to that, just trying to serve the students the best they can to get ready for the career.
And I get to talk about our climate and culture at Rolla High School. I love our staff, our students, faculty. They are, Dr. Ray always says, the best in the state. I do believe that as well. We have wonderful facilities that you guys have already heard about from Dr. Fulton's presentation, but this is a new picture that I hadn't seen yet, but I look at it and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So we are actually now Rolla High School again instead of a high school. If you come by, and our letters were missing for a little bit. So we're excited to talk and open the doors to our community because they are a big reason of why we have that. And so we thank the community tremendously. Just talking about some of our spaces, obviously our field house, we opened to the basketball game, I think it was February 6th in 2024. So since we were here last year, that happened. It was wonderful. We've had a tremendous amount of space given to our PE classes in there, where there's a couple classes could be in there at a time, which we never had that opportunity before. Make use of the mezzanine level as well. We've had assemblies where we can actually have everybody all together and not people sitting on the floors in our old gym like we had to house all of our 1,400 students plus about our 100 faculty that we have. So we brought back an end of the year assembly, our Veterans Day assembly. Some of you are in attendance to that. It was awesome this year with that. So lots of things that are happening within our field house to not only include stuff for school, but also bringing in higher level universities and such with our college fair. Roger Bridgman did that this year. We had rave reviews from a lot of those universities about the space that they had. So that was good. And as well, we also service our community with, for instance, SIR was in there, I believe, last weekend with basketball tournaments and stuff. So lots of things going on with the field house. Moving to our band and choirs, which you heard from Mr. Slawinski tonight about how appreciative they are. He said they were in hog heaven. They love their space. They can get the whole marching band in the band room and do a rehearsal when it's 80, 90 degrees outside, when it's band camp. And before it was always outside or in a gym that they were able to do that. So they're living the dream there. They're totally appreciative of everything that happens there. And then also we have the corridor between the band and choir rooms as well, in which we've used some of that space, not only for small group ensemble stuff with band and choir, but also some of our wrestlers have done some activities in there and cheerleaders as well. So we're using all of that space. Our newest one to open was our auditorium. And so again, we had our first performance for the band. You heard about that already this evening. It was wonderful. I was there. I've got 2 kids that are playing in the band. And so it was awesome to see that come to fruition for February, we played basketball in there, and now we have it as an auditorium. So we also had our district PD, a couple things already this year with Josh Varner in there, so our whole entire staff has been welcomed into that. And as well, we had our wonderful grand opening, which many of you were with as well. So with culture and climate, coming from some of our surveys that were done district-wide, also talking to like our PAC, Principals Advisory Committee that Dr. Ray runs, as well as our teachers and staff, there are 4 things that we kind of are focusing on this year. Lacey alluded to our Smart Pass system. We kind of piggybacked off of the junior high last year. They initiated that, and we were seeing lots of students in the hallways, and being able to track those was not feasible, not able to be done the way we were doing it with just paper, and so we did initiate that electronic system this year, which has been wonderful. First semester, kind of getting the kinks out of it, as well as getting just that process of the students knowing this is what you have to do to be in the hall, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to start diving in second semester to some of the analytics, because it does bring lots of data with that. It'll give you the number of minutes or hours that students are out of class. It tells you who's your frequent flyers. It tells you who teacher-wise has been sending the most. So I haven't really dived into that too much with our staff, but that's going to be a focus second semester, again, kind of getting it off the ground first semester, going into second semester with that. So we're excited to be able to bring back some of that instructional time to our students, and showing the importance of being in the classroom, of why they need to be there. Lacey also alluded to our restroom supervision. We did go away from our tardy sweep that we used to do, because last year we had some incidents in the bathroom, quite a few incidences, and I'm happy to report that this year that is a lower number that we have seen. Mr. Smith ended up separating kind of our teachers by plan time. Teachers will give up the passing period prior to their plan time to go supervise the bathrooms, and they are no longer having to do a tardy sweep after that. So that's kind of the compromise that we had with them, and so they are monitoring the bathrooms to make sure there's what they're supposed to be doing in the bathroom versus not. So that's been successful for us. Our overall discipline this year comparative to last year has been down 15%, which is good. And then we also are initiating out of our counseling center some small groups again. Before COVID, that was happening. Again, kind of things went by the wayside with COVID, but we are bringing back small groups. One of our new counselors, or our new counselor, Mrs. Hendricks, has started with our grief group this year. She did a 7-week little round with some of our kiddos who had an immediate death within their family, like an immediate member in their family, sorry. And so a mom, dad, sibling, something like that. And so those were the students that she focused on, but I do know that there's other plans for other small groups to come along, some of that resiliency stuff, some support for kids, to have that in place. So we're excited about that, to kind of change some of that climate and culture and build some of that camaraderie with some of those students with common themes that are going on. Lastly, one thing that has come from our staff, and it's near and dear to my heart, and I don't know how we're going to solve it because it's everywhere, is our limited number of substitutes that we have within our district. And so that's something that they have asked us about, multiple departments have, on how that we can change that, because we do know that that's a morale booster. I don't like to send those emails that say, hey, I've got 14 requests coming on Friday, which tomorrow, I did that Wednesday for tomorrow. We had 14 requests and we had 5 unfilled spots. I know Tori and I have talked, that's something that they do all the time, is to move things around. So trying to figure out the magical potion to bring us some substitutes is going to be important to build our morale, because I want people to take their days. You know, we need a day here and there. They need appointments, you know, to go to appointments and stuff. And so that's something we will try to focus on as well. So to end kind of on a happy note, last year I did come and say that we started our high school Facebook page because we were the last school in the district to not have their own little page. So I'm happy to say that that's still going strong. My focus is to kind of make a post every day. I do a really good job of doing that, but not every single day. But the addition that I did this year was our birthday shout out. So I don't know if you've seen that, where I've been doing birthday shout outs to our staff. And I've gotten really good response from our staff and even just reading the comments that they say on Facebook, that they comment to those teachers. But before, we never did tell our staff when everybody's birthday was. If, you know, it was in your department, you knew, but everybody else didn't know. So I think it's a way for us to kind of build a camaraderie within our staff, because we are so large, and in high school, you know how they like to just stay in their department. So that was an addition that I thought we needed to kind of build some of that culture and climate as well. So Dr. Gray is going to finish it up.
All right. I would say holistically, we're in a really good spot at the high school. Our kids are doing really well. We not only are within the high school, we serve the community. We served 14 families for Thanksgiving. This past Thanksgiving, we have 8 families that we're serving for Christmas. We had a good fall sports season. Our kids were successful. We started off the winter sports season with a wrestling assembly where we had all the kids in the gym, and they were cheering on, you know, the wrestlers within the gym, and that was a good time for them. Our speech and debate team, Mr. Brooks gives us emails on a regular basis saying how well our students are doing, you know, in speech and debate, and they're coming back with all kinds of recognitions. And our academic teams are going against teams that have college kids on them and holding their own, you know, so. We're in a really good spot. It's a great school, and it's a great school because we have great people. We have great kids, we have great teachers, we have great administrators. Very proud of these administrators. They're being instructional leaders. They're getting into classrooms. Between the 4 of us, we almost have 200 evaluations at this point. That's 200 evaluations, not for a year, for a semester, you know, and all 3 of them are kicking my butt in it, so. I'm very proud of them in terms of them getting in the classrooms and leading their respective departments. So, and they're doing a great job with kids. They're looking at being proactive. They're looking for solutions to keep kids in school and send them to the Learning Center when we have to. Casey does a great job over there. That program is absolutely needed 100% and can use expansion at some point in time. But to be able to look at things to say, how can we keep kids at the high school first, you know, is being led by them. You know, and things that we talked about. So I'm very proud of the building, and we're only going to get better, which is what's exciting. So any questions? Okay.
Dr. Ray.
Oh, yeah.
Quick question.
Yes.
I didn't want to get you off track.
Yeah.
So back on student performance.
Yes,
for
sir.
everybody's benefit, our Algebra 1, that are the students that don't take Algebra 1 at the junior high, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
And that's how we get measured
That is
by the
correct.
state.
That is correct.
The Algebra 2 right there is showing you those students that took the
Yep.
Algebra 1 at the junior high, so we have to retest them in Algebra 2. So that's where we're seeing.
So if they take Algebra 1 at the high school, and they could take Algebra 2 again, but they don't have to take that test? Is that what you're saying?
They would have tested already in Algebra 1.
Okay.
So that we met that. So the ones that we test for Algebra 2 are those that haven't been tested in our building yet. So those are those 8th grade Algebra 1 students that we have to grab hold of.
Yeah. So unfortunately, you're part of this growth achievement number also.
It is.
The district gets.
For sure.
In both English and science
And-
and social studies.
And I would say, Mr. Packard, it's difficult on a year-to-year basis to really calculate that growth. I know that the department has this convoluted equation that they use to calculate growth from one year to the next. It would be more helpful if we were able to test our students at the beginning of the school year, see where they're at, and then test them at the end of the school year and see what kind of growth they have, as opposed to going off of some arbitrary formula that says, this is what we think they should grow. You know?
Agreed.
So if we could get there,
Yep,
then I think we have some data that we can really use.
agreed.
You know, until we get there, it's a difficult target to hit. It's not one that we're not trying to hit.
But
it's-
those Algebra 1 students should be compared to what they tested as a 8th grader, whatever math course they were in.
Well, and on this particular data, we get this, and Dr. Welch, correct me if I'm wrong, please. On the data for the Algebra 1 that she gets, it's for the entire district. It's 8th grade and algebra at the high school. And then she tried to disseminate what was our scores versus what was the junior high scores. So we get a score holistically for the district, you know,
Okay.
and then we try to break it down for the respective buildings,
Yeah.
so.
When you looked at your APR reports from last month, we have a overall district APR score, and that includes all students who have taken any assessment. But then by building, you receive a score, and that is specific to the students in that building who took whatever assessment was appropriate for them to take. So for the junior high, for example, they have 8th grade math, but they do also receive points for those students that took the EOC, even though they were an 8th grader. When they get to the high school, though, they are required to take a math assessment. Algebra 1 is what's required. If they've already taken that assessment, to Stephanie's point, they have to take another assessment. But that is not included in the calculations for APR because that's
Okay.
not the required assessment.
Okay.
It's more of a graduation requirement that they have a math assessment, and so we're fulfilling another requirement, but it isn't what's calculated in our APR score. So if we have students who take Algebra 2 or geometry at the high school, that's not included in that APR score for the high school specifically for their math.
Okay, changing the subject. But we're doing more of the before and after for elementary with the reading and math. We're doing more testing and seeing growth.
With our local assessment?
Than we are at the high school.
With our local assessment, STAR, we have purchased that, and we do administer that assessment in grades, depending upon which assessment it is. It's from 1st grade through 8th grade consistently. The reading assessment is given at the 9th grade, but beyond that, then we use things like pair assessment, which the teachers are building their own common assessments, and they're looking at that data and having those conversations about what do they need to do to change or drive their instruction moving forward. But we do not have a STAR reading or STAR math assessment that's consistently given to every student at the high school. And for multiple reasons, we don't feel like it would be appropriate to do that for all students at the high school. And because they do have other assessments that they're looking at and trying to look at more local data to help them drive their instruction. They can take so many different courses, it's just widely varied at that level. It looks very different there than it does
Yes,
in a grade level classroom.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have RTI and RTC. Get down there.
Wrap this up, bud.
Yeah, we're ready. Yeah.
You got a lot to say, Cynthia.
I got a lot to say, but Mr. Chance in the last 2 weeks has cut most of my slides out. So
Way to go, Mr.
he's
Chance.
pulled a lot of them out. And I tell you what, it's hard to follow those two, the two groups. Well, Snigger talks a lot, but the other when I was talking about the high school, and wonderful things, though. They both said wonderful things. We deal with the same students at all times. We have 8th grade students and all the way 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade students, and how excited we are to have them and blessed to get to work with these folks. But at the Career Center anyways, talking about what we do there, if you see it along the bottom there, we forget to put that a lot, but those symbolize all those other schools that we work with too. So not only Rolla students makes up about half of our students, but those schools below do too. And great partnerships. Some of those students come 40 miles to see us every day. And we want to make sure that time and the dollars they spend to do that are worth it. So we do a lot of things to try to make sure those are good for them. Mr. Chance?
So diving into our CSIP goals, again, just like the other schools, we're really not going to change much there. There's still the same 3 goals, the same 3 focus areas that we're focusing on. We're just kind of moving through those action steps one by one and progressing through those. So the first thing I think we need to bring up is our academic achievement. It's not really we do focus a lot on student successes, but really we feel that if we put that time and effort into our staff and developing our staff, we're going to see those outcomes. So we are in the 3rd year of a 5-year process with our Tech Centers at Work grant, and we've really focused a lot of that funding for professional development opportunities. With our staff, that sometimes looks like out-of-state travel and out-of-state opportunities, and one time even out of country. I mean, our staff is getting to do some really, really neat things to improve themselves. But really, the majority of that focus is in our curriculum development that we noticed where we really needed improvement there. And when they came to 3 years ago, that was something that we got from a curriculum and instruction review was, where's your written curriculum? And we have also found that that is not uncommon for career and tech centers. What we notice is our staff, and we've said this many times, but our staff is not your traditional education pathway teacher. We have folks that come from industry, and their curriculum, what they teach their employees, it's all up here. It's there. They just have that knowledge and they pass that on. Nowhere in their industry, their profession, is that written down somewhere as a guideline to follow. So we have to help them with those things. And this is kind of a sample shot here of what we've been doing. A lot of our other buildings, they've kind of got that curriculum mapped out, and it's there, and it's a template there for them. We kind of got to start at square one with our folks. So within the last year, we've developed this spreadsheet for them, and it aligns well with our district curriculum tool, so it's consistent with that. And we really just started by saying, hey, listen, let's work on a scope and sequence here, and what does that mean? It's not, that's easy for regular educators to understand that, but our folks are like, well, what's that? So we just really have to map out a school year. What are we teaching kids so we can, have documentation of that. And this year our focus has been on that fourth column there, those standards. That's another thing that's a little different for us is we don't have state standards to follow. Our folks got to understand in their industry what's the industry standard, and that can differentiate in many ways. So we're really focused on letting our people get find their standards, understanding what they're teaching to, and then we're linking those up with our written curriculum. So we're progressing really nicely through that. I think we've had some really positive PD time in that regard. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to kind of go off and do our thing with our folks over there. So looking at some of that academic achievement, though, our student successes are evaluated a little bit differently in career and tech ed. It's not so much, the test scores that we see and those kind of things, but we also have some of that assessment with our success ready that you'll see later. But one of those is credits earned, and this is just some data that we have on some of the credits earned. And we'd really like to focus on that total credits earned. You can see with 2 years ago compared to last year's credits earned, we've improved in all areas. But, really there's two ways that we can build that. One is just by sheer population. We can add more students, the more credits we're going to earn. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to do that. We're at capacity for the most part in most all of our programs. So what we've really focused on is our application process. And really, you heard us talk about last year was getting the right kid in the right seat. When we have the right student in the right seat, they're going to be, more apt to be successful. And that's where I think you're seeing those credits earned, increasing. Along with, we do also have our intervention programs, which we're trying to focus on failing students and providing them with more opportunities to improve those grades and get those above failing and targeting those kids for those opportunities. So that's kind of what we're focused on for our academic achievement.
The biggest one probably talk about when you think about career tech ed, you're talking about that success-ready students. I'm not saying graduation is not important, but graduation, we think of it as a step, and it's great that we can do that. But our focus on that is what's after graduation. We want them to graduate. It's crazy important. You'll hear me say crazy things every once in a while. It's important. But also what they're doing after that's important. So our grade card's that 180 day away, right? What are they doing Christmas time this year and they graduated last year? And so we always look at how can we help and how can we make sure that those students are in a better place than they are. One of the biggest things I'd tell you about, you're going to see a few of these throughout our building. If you come in right now, you'd see several of our classrooms go with it. These are soft skills of workplace readiness. One of the things we've really worked on the last couple of years is we've thrown words out to our faculty and staff like formative assessments, right? And we threw that out. Most of us in the teaching world, we got that in our 4-year degree, right? When I became an ag teacher, I got that in my 4-year college degree to become a teacher. Our folks didn't get that. So we've had to teach some of that in there. This one basically, let me tell you how it works. They formatively assess these 7 items at least 3 times a week, and then that is the assessment piece. Those numbers you see creates that number value that goes with that assessment into the grade book. Their parents see this, the students see this, our instructors see this, we see this, and we can tell where they are on those workplace-ready skills. And so this is one out of Design Academy. It's on their wall. All of our programs that are currently doing this have developed their own, and some of those are kind of their industry standards in there in that workplace readiness. So we're pretty excited about it. With it also, several of our programs, about 80% of our programs right now have time stations. I've talked in the past about how important that is. It's something we forget how to tell students that they need to be able to clock in and out. You know, I was talking last night with a group of folks, and they were discussing some employees they have that are stealing 20 minutes a day from them. 20 to 40 minutes because it's before lunch and after lunch, 10 minutes on either side, clocking in and out, and how important that is and how they'd see that grow and get better. This is how we can do it, through those soft skills or workplace-ready skills. Industry-recognized credentials is something we hammer on a lot. We want our students to leave with something tangible in their hand that they can go to the workplace with that means something, right? And one of those is a funny one, is like a forklift certified. You know, you've seen that on TikTok and stuff. We do that. We certify students to drive forklifts. We do a lot of other things, but that's just one of them. The biggest ones in the last couple of years are our CCMA that we've put out there. 28 out of 29 students last year that went through our CCMA program and our Health Academy. 28 out of 29 got national registry when they ended before they graduated high school. That's awesome. They can go anywhere in the country and be that person that brings you back to the doctor's office, takes your blood pressure, your vitals, and tells you what the doctor's going to do. That's awesome. We're doing that right here in this building. It's exciting. But here's some numbers. We have IRCs, or industry recognized credentials, available for every student in our programs. We have approaching that 50% of those students passing with those all students. So it's getting pretty good, and we're getting better every year. I would brag right now today, Intro to Service Careers. A lot of people used to know the supermarket. It's hot off the press. We had 14 students today. It's our first year. We changed it, you know, so they have an IRC now. 14 of our students got an IRC today. And that is ServSafe Food Handler. And so exciting for that. We've got 3 more testing tomorrow, and I'm hoping that they pass as well. So that's extremely exciting. We talked to a local business owner, McDonald's. They are super excited about that. That's going to open up pathways for those students that we haven't had before, because they actually have that certification leaving that program.
That's great.
Graduate follow-up, our placement data, if you see where 100% is, I don't know why we show 120, I don't know how you get there, but we're really close to 100 the whole way. And that's the most proud I am. Our students are going to work, they're going to college, they're going to the military after they leave us. And I think that's what our job is. Our job is to help get those students to that next level, and this is showing those placements. It's also, we talk about special populations. You can read down through there. We're really working hard on those special populations, and most year to year, we're gaining every year, but we're really strong in those. That's exciting to look at. The increase in intercurricular, we know that climate and culture is a big thing, and we're going to talk about it as a goal. But one of the things that we can do in success-ready students is we know that groups are parts of things. I see a lot of you folks at different meetings and groups throughout the community on a monthly basis. This is how we get students in there, is our CTSOs, Career and Technical Student Organizations. That's your FFA, your HOSA, your DECA, your FCCLA, those type of activities. Skills USA is one that's our largest and affects most of our programs. We've reorganized it this year. We've really dove deep and just redoing the whole thing, and it's getting better. We're getting ready to do officer selections in the next 2 weeks, and really excited about that, or the next week before break. It's exciting. Work-based learning, I put that in there, and is an attendance code. The reason why that's important is the work-based learning is a measure that we have that we can say that we are putting students in work-based learning hours. So we know that's on the Career and Tech certificate that the state recognizes and gives out, that we do as well. But how do we tell our folks, how do we tell our parents that your students, your sons and daughters here in the community or in our school are doing work-based learning? They're actually doing that. That's how we do it. We're putting that code in there. We do it through a lot of things called internships. A lot of our students get internships and go out to work. I know that whatever you want to call it, flex programs, this or that, doesn't matter. All great. Getting those students in real work situations is wonderful at an earlier age if that's where they want to go. So excited about that. Where are we at in expansion for these things? Dr. Welsh will talk to you about some things that I've probably talked to her about several times, but I just want to throw them out there. Computer science is a great opportunity we're looking for. We're talking about career technical shops, giving some one-hour programming to some students, but expansion points on the MSIMP data for us, we can get those too, and we've been doing that every year, expanding our programs and offering more to our students. Advisory, Success Ready, we don't do it without advisory information. Mr. Chance will tell you about how many, we go out, this survey was based on about 150 survey results, came back. We have about 200 people in this community that come together to be part of our advisories twice a year. We're excited to have their information, and this is where they think, where our students and our advisory thinks that we need to grow in the future. Of course, those things, I'll just throw them out there: welding, video production, early childhood and teaching. We got early childhood, but adding some teaching stuff. Cosmetology, we all need our hair done. And computer science. Don't know why it's there, but state thinks it's important as well. So, climate and culture, here you go.
The third focus area that we talk about is that climate and culture piece, which is very important to us as well. But like Dr. Chapman mentioned, I think one of the neatest, most successful things we do in that regard is just the involvement of our advisory committees. That's something that we actually have to do, so it's quite simple for us. But that's a big undertaking. Our committees meet twice a year, and it's included of this year. I think in the fall we had nearly 200 members in different committees, and those are our local community leaders and business owners that take part in their free time to come help guide and drive our program. And you can kind of see some of the things that that they do for us. We sit down and meet with them. We talk about curriculum. What are the IRCs that they want to see our students graduate with? What kind of purchases, what kind of equipment needs do we have, to move along in those industries? So those are very, very important to us, and I think it just builds a good collaboration within our community for sure. I mean, these are the places that hire our graduates. Oh, went the wrong way there. Am I upside down? I'm sorry. So our focus area, some of the other climate and culture focus area action steps that we've looked at is just, obviously that community involvement with parents and those events. We have an annual showcase that we have every fall, which we had back in October, which is a really successful, well-attended event that we have. Really excited for that one every year. We just get a chance to brag. We kind of wait a little bit in the year so our students have stuff to show off as well. But that's a really well-attended event that we host, as well as the craft marketplace that we have at the middle school. That also serves as a fundraiser for our Skills USA, CTSO. Some other climate culture pieces, just district-wide. We're really excited about some of the collaboration with the high school and the junior high, as it pertains to course offerings. I think in the last couple of years, we've definitely expanded in being able to offer courses to the junior high population, as well as, some of the work with the high school in the application process and helping us get those right students in the right seats and the development of that. Our consortium leaders every spring, we also have a meeting with our sending school leaders to come in, and we just kind of keep them abreast on how we're doing with their students that come visit us, and what kind of things what the future looks like, and where we're at currently with those programs. And then, of course, internally, you always want, when people come to work, and students come to school and they're excited about it, you're going to have that positive climate culture. Staff celebrate. We like our celebrations and recognitions, whether it's a carry-in or birthday celebrations, summer conference get-togethers, any time outside of the work day that we try to get together and collaborate. I mean, those are good positive times with our staff. And our students, that's what we're really celebrating. Student of the month. CTSO officer recognitions. Couple things I think is really cool that we're building right now is, you go into the high school, and I've always enjoyed this. You see all the activity banners hanging from the ceiling, right? All those seniors got their banners up there. Well, we have actually a program that can print those banners, and we've actually started printing our program seniors and putting them on the wall, having their picture with their program on the wall. Well, that's really exciting. I think that's a neat token for them that they can take with them. And then this year we're implementing an ambassador program where it's allowing some of our student leaders to get in leadership roles, whether that's their CTSO or whatever. We just see a student with some skills that could put them in those positions. But we're going to utilize those students to give our tours to 8th graders and to advocate for our programs. We're going to use students talking to students, give them those opportunities for leadership. So we're really excited about that as well.
You know, we do have a great place to work, and I'll always love hearing the end of Dr. Ray's speech, because I'm always like, man, I wish I could have thought of that. But anyways, it's wonderful and it's great, because he thanks everybody. It is, you know, we work in a great place, have a great thing going. There are some challenges, you know, and we're facing those challenges. I saw the dollars up there earlier in this meeting, and I was like, holy cow, but we're meeting those. And I love the question, how much of that haven't we paid yet? And that was pretty amazing, right? She does a good job with the money. She just does, right? She really does. Anyways, but CT alignment, some of our challenges, Desi came down as being our problem. One of the things that we're striving to be is one of the premier career and tech facility in the state of Missouri. There are a lot of good ones. We've been great before. We're going to be great again. We're working hard on it all the time. And so we had Desi come down the other day, and they wanted to see what we were doing, because we're doing some cool things. And they asked some of those challenges. So some of those I brought up with the Desi people the other day. We're Project Lead the Way right now. We're in a reboot time with Project Lead the Way. We've just changed teachers and those things. How exciting it is. We had great for years, but oh my gosh, we have awesome opportunities now. We've been at S&T 3 times and just signed the paperwork to go a 4th time this year already to S&T and collaborate with them, with our students. Exciting. But it is not all the way into CTE now. And so I've asked Desi, we really need to look at that. And then we also talked about, you know, all of CTE is not under our umbrella and our roof. What can we do from the state level or DESE to help, and how could we better our whole district if we had all of CTE under our roof, and what could we do there? We talked about expansion, or just a challenge, not with just DESE, but I've also talked to the superintendents here. Expansion, you know, we're at capacity. What do we do next? You know, what do we offer somebody? It's hard to have more. We just can't have more than 40 students at a time in our automotive facility, right? That's packed. You know, that's maxed out. 15's ideal, 20 apiece. There's 2 of them in there. So what other programs do we have, or what other programs could we offer? So we've talked about those, and I showed those a little bit, and they're pretty similar all over the state. There's a lot of welding programs, and people think we need one too. There are a few cosmetology, but people think we need them too. So we talked those things and what's realistic for us, and what could we do here. Student and community interest, you saw that chart too. It fits right along with what our advisory says and what the state says are pretty much right on line. So the things that we can do, and how can we really make these things work in the next few years, we're really looking at how do we utilize our current space. We've got some space at RTI that I think we could use for daytime programming that would really help our students as a whole at Rolla High School, Rolla Junior High, and us all together. We'll talk about renovation in current facilities. We know the facility we're sitting in right now. We got some lease space that's going to come up open in the next couple of years, and what can we do in putting those places, or do we have things that could go in there real easy and make sense district-wide, but also with CTE? And I think there are. I've got a lot of ideas. Just ask some people sitting behind the table. And then, what about new space? I'd love to have new space. We were just yesterday, Mr. Chance and I were down at Table Rock Lake. And Table Rock Lake down there, it used to be Gibson Tech, and they had a great facility. It was built in the late 60s and 70s like us at RTI. They've got a brand new facility, and amazing what it looks like and what about $40 million could do for you. So, any questions?
You kind of whispered that number.
He just threw that out there, didn't he?
I have noticed that our board is very supportive, and if you say a number, they usually say yes. So, anyways.
Lucas,
Just joking, but
could you tell the board a little
Kind of.
bit about the masonry program that you did? You brought in that speaker from out of state, and
Yeah,
kind of how that
100%.
came
Well,
about.
just-
And
It started with PD.
Yes.
2 years ago, when we started through the Southern Regional Education Board, that was the SREB, and we started with Tech Centers at Work. We want to be the premier tech center, and I can tell you this, we have the best, and we have lots of great teachers. We got the best masonry program in the state of Missouri. We just do, okay? And that's not because of the space. It's really because of the people that teach it and the people around him, the support he gets to, right? Our students are attracted to it, they love it, and they work extremely hard. So I looked at Mr. Pilkin and I said, here's what I need you to do. I need you to get better. I need you to get better. But the only way you get better is get in a room and not be the best one in there. You know what I mean? I'm not the best one in here, so that's how I'm staying. But you can't, right? And so I said, find the best. And so he went to the national contest and found the best school in the United States that won 8 out of the last 10 years national competition with their students in North Carolina. And we set a PD event up for him to go out there and see it. He took a couple students, he took another instructor with him, and they went out there and saw what they were doing and tried to find what that was, that magic sauce or how that works. What happened is at that event, they liked us so well too, that state, North Carolina people, that we actually brought a speaker that spoke to their students, and actually a young man did an awesome job. He came to us, a partnership with Green Tree Church, let us use their facility there, and spoke to all of our students about going to work, you know, about what it means from high school to go to work, and just the opportunities that are out there for people that work hard. It was on his dime. He came out here. He flew out here, we paid for a hotel room, and he took care of everything else. It was exciting. If I don't have time, if they're timing me, but anyways, one of the best things he did, and I got the mic, so one of the best things he did is he also talked to us from an employer standpoint. So I got you guys, he talked to us from an employer standpoint, and he said how, as employers, we treat our folks. And this has changed my mindset too. And so he had 3 different students go out in the hall, and he had them come back in, and one of them, he said, the first one, he said, guys, I want you to give this student a bunch of crud, right? I want you to yell at him and tell him he's not doing a good job and all that. So they brought the first student in, blindfolded, brought the first student in and handed him stuff, and he said, put the stuff in the bucket. And everybody from the crowd said, you're not doing a good job, you're missing, what's wrong with you, can't do nothing right, you know. And then so he said, hey, that's how we treat our new employees. What are we giving them? You know, and this comes to us at a different angle, right? So we now are looking at students. The second person he brought in that hadn't heard any of that stuff, and he said, crowd, don't say a word, stay silent. I'm going to give him a little bit of instruction, and we'll see how he does. And the student came up, gave him 3 balls, put a 5 guy. He said, I got a bucket out in front of you. I want you to throw these 3 balls in the bucket. Start now. And he did. He didn't hit the bucket at all, but he said, how did that make him feel? And then the third person he brought up to the stage, it happened to be a young lady, and he brought her up the stage. He said, ma'am, we're walking up the stairs. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs. Now we're at the top. You're on stage in front of a lot of people that are watching. Okay, there's a 5-gallon bucket. Do you know how big that is? And she said, yes. She said, I'm going to put it approximately 3 feet out in front of you, and I'm going to give you 3 balls. And I want you at one at a time. I want you to roll them off your fingertips when your hand's stretched out, and we'll kind of guide you and help you. And some of the crowd just got in and said, you're doing a great job. We love you. Great. All that stuff. And you know what? She didn't hit the bucket. I wish she did. I'd be a better story. But if those were 3 employees, that we had, right, or even 3 students that we have, right, they were just 3 off the street, come in blindfolded. What was the difference? The difference was, as the employer, as the teacher, what did instruction, how were we intentionally setting them up for success? And if I thought that was a wonderful thing that he did, is several things, but that one really stuck out with me. Am I setting those people that I work up with for success? And so now I'm trying to tell you how far the bucket's in front of you, Tracy, if you ask. So, anyways, great stuff. We're really doing great things there. Our instructors are amazing in what they're doing. So,
I also heard from a parent that is from a sending school, so their son doesn't go to school on Mondays.
Yeah.
And the son never really liked school, but now they find a way to come. They drive themselves here on Mondays because they love school so much. So that's a testament to what you guys are doing too.
I think it is. It's always crazy. You know, in the first year, Mr. Chance, he gets in charge of that driving permit sometimes. He says, do you think we should let these kids drive here on Mondays? And I'm like, these students are wanting to come to school.
Awesome.
You know, they're driving from Cuba, and their parents are saying it's okay, and they're affording the stuff to do it. Yes, if they do it safely by themselves and all that, if they want to come to school, we'd love to have them. And so, I think good things are happening.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great job.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think the common theme that I noticed with all of you was the communication that you have with students that has helped with attendance, and the passion that each of you have in thinking outside the box and making changes. So thank you guys. Kudos for all of your growth this year. That's great.
We appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm going to tell you, he beat me on high half.
He did?
He did. I wrote down the times as well.
He beat all of us, and we're not going to hear the end of it.
But he's going to get a big no on
Lucas
the 40.
strikes again.
40 million. The 40 million is a no.
Unless he comes to the table with it.
Well, yeah. If you want to
He's
find
going to
the
get some
resource.
grants.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Welch, course description book.
Course description.
I don't know if you caught it earlier on Lucas's award that he won, the Rising Star. but it was for a CTE director who demonstrated passion about their position, right? So I think
There's no passion there. I don't know.
appropriately awarded for Dr. Chapman. Absolutely. Rising star, I don't know about. Passionate, yes. No, we appreciate Dr. Chapman and all of our administrators, all the effort that they put into just their daily work with students and staff. Obviously, it makes a difference, and it does not go unnoticed. So we're going to talk this evening about our course description book. This is an annual process, so I won't spend a lot of time just talking about what the purpose is. I did include those slides for you just as a reminder. But you know that we're ultimately using this information to help students as they think about their four-year plan and what it is that they want to prepare for after Rolla High School, whether that's going right out into the workforce or if it is moving into something more two-year, four-year college degree readiness program. This does take pretty much the entire first semester, believe it or not. We start this work in late September, early October, and it requires a lot of just connected face-to-face conversations with our principals and their staff in the building, but as well as just a larger team between our CTE programming staff as well as our high school staff. And so it is a great opportunity to just come together and collaborate, communicate, think about what our needs are for our students and how we might make some changes to current existing programs or where we might have the potential to expand and grow things. So we'll talk through some of the highlights. I did include a draft for you in tonight's presentation. I will let you know that that is a draft. We're still working through that process. Sarah Kalin at the high school takes that and fine-tunes that, gets input from all of the staff members across both of those buildings, and so it's quite the undertaking. She's almost there, but not quite. So tonight we'll kind of talk through some of the high-level changes that we're making and then ask for your approval at the end of the presentation. So at the high school specifically, a few that I wanted to talk about. One is competitive speech and debate. As you know, Patrick Brooks joined us a couple of years ago, and this is a course that he has had speech and debate that he has added. You all have seen that program grow by leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. He's doing a fantastic job, and he has proposed that we add a new course for students that would be seeking more advanced research writing and public speaking skills. And so these students would be concurrently taking this course with his other speech and debate students, but he would have specific assignments for them that would allow them to kind of push to that next level. Creative sewing, this is a revision of an existing course. This last year we talked a little bit about some course changes with some staffing changes there. Dana Jenkins is now teaching this course, and she would like to make some changes and move this just beyond fashion and also include some interior textile design. So it's expanding the scope of the course there. And I think that'll be appealing to our students and maybe pull some additional students into that programming that haven't participated in the past. Functional service careers, this course is being created out of our transition last year to some course programming at RTI, RTC. You have probably heard about, and many of you have even visited our Bulldog Cafe over at the high school. And so some of those students in the past had been in that Intro to Service Careers course at RTC. And so this is another opportunity for kiddos to have a transitional program and help them develop skills that will prepare them for a pathway beyond high school. And so our high school SPED team has put this course together and would like to propose that we add this to our course book specifically for our special education students.
So by saying that it's 3 units, that's, it can
3
be
credits.
3 years?
3 credits.
Oh,
It is a
okay.
course that they could take more than 1 year, but they
Okay.
would earn 3 credits, yes. Correct.
And that would be at the RT?
It would be at the high school.
It'd be at the high school?
Yes. Yeah. And we have some students now who are obviously doing that, and we've made some, behind the scenes, we've made that work for them, but we really need to have a course on our books that would be reported correctly to DESE and allow them to earn credits for that opportunity. A few other courses at the high school, just to call out, Intro to Media and then Sports and School Media. These are revisions of existing courses. So we currently have video production 1, 2, and 3. Megan Willie is another new staff member who has been with us. This is her second year, I believe. And now that she's had an opportunity to kind of live through all of that coursework, think about the student needs, she's made some proposed changes to the names of those courses to more accurately communicate with kiddos what it is that they'll be focused on during those courses. So no major changes, but just some revisions to try to help communicate that better to kiddos. And then the last one for the high school is girls' weights. This is a course that we would like to reactivate. We've had it previously, but ran into some issues with space in the past that just did not allow it to be offered. And so now that we have multiple spaces that can be used, we would like to reactivate that and try to create a separate weights course specifically for girls. Moving on to our career tech courses. Dr. Chapman alluded to some of these that we'll talk about this evening. They have every year really go to great lengths to think about expansion. You know, he mentioned 40 million, he dropped that. That's just pretty much normal conversations with Dr. Chapman every day. He has big ideas, and we love that, and we love his passion and enthusiasm. Sometimes we have to help him remember that we don't have $40 million, and so then he comes back with other ideas that we can hopefully make happen. One of those we'll talk about is in the realm of PLTW, but the first one I want to mention there is just the design shop production. This is a new course Angie Yao has proposed. She currently works with 8th grade students in Design Academy Club, and those students are learning some skills in that club that she believes can be applied then to a specific course. So they would be coming in to her classroom and working on some real-world projects and gaining some credit for that effort. The PLTW expansion, this is not one that we anticipate would require new staff at this point. However, we would like to see this grow over time, and potentially this might be something we propose in the future for additional staff. But you'll remember last year you approved moving to a full FTE for Project Lead the Way teacher, and we hired Christina King, and she has come in this year and done a fantastic job, really kind of trying to understand what it is that we need to grow that program, but also how can we leverage her and her expertise to potentially grow computer science, Project Lead the Way computer science course as well. So in Project Lead the Way, there are a number of different courses that teachers can go and be trained in and then come back and deliver that instruction at a high school. For engineering, there are probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 different courses. And really, we don't need to teach and offer all 8 or 9. We really need to focus on what is the coursework that's most appropriate for our students and the things that we see that they need in our areas or beyond for that specific pathway. And so they've looked at all the courses that had been offered previously and thought about which ones maybe should be removed. One of those courses in particular is really no longer promoted by Project Lead the Way. They've repurposed that, and they've created a new course which is called the PLTW Capstone, and it's really kind of that culminating senior experience that they want all students to have at the end of their pathway, whether that's biomed, engineering, or computer science. And so we're updating some of that so that students can have that clear pathway. Which means then that we're deleting that engineering design and development course. And then another one that we're going to delete is engineering essentials. We offer an intro to engineering course for our engineering pathway, which is very comparable. And so we don't feel like we need both of those courses. So by deleting those 2 and just adding that one capstone course, it does provide a clear pathway for students, but it also provides some flexibility in Mrs. King's schedule to be able to introduce a new Project Lead the Way course, which we believe should be computer science. The state has had for many years a requirement that districts offer a computer science course, and they're very specific about what that course has to be and what providers you can use to have teachers trained to turn around then and implement that course. So we have always had something on our books and offered it. We need to have at least 5 students every year that have interest in order for that class to make, and we just never hit that mark, which is very disappointing and an area that we know that we need to improve upon. So this is something that we've talked about for the last several years of how do we make this happen? How do we make this a reality? Especially with Missouri S&T right here in our backyard. It's a great opportunity for students. And as Dr. Chapman mentioned, Mrs. King has already started making those connections with her students, and I think helping them see beyond where they currently are and what that might look like for them moving forward, making those connections. But they also just have a lot of great resources that we need to be taking better advantage of. So I appreciate all of her efforts in making those connections. And I know that she'll apply that same excitement and enthusiasm towards computer science. This will require her to get this training, so she'll have to do some professional development, but then she'll be ready to implement that course next year. Technical Careers Shop 1 and 2, this is a course that would be new, and this is something that has really come out of the conversations, again, with staff and students. If you'll think back to the information that Dr. Chapman previously shared with you, he was giving you some data around what do students say that they have interest in, but also what does labor market research tell us is important? Where are the jobs at? What should we be considering when we think about how we prepare kids for the future? And so they are taking that information and trying to think about relevant expansions to those areas. Some of those, of course, cost more money than others. One of the things that this particular course would do is help us really with many different pathways that are already in existence. So if you're not familiar, our 8th graders have an opportunity to take kind of a career exploratory class where they partner with RTC, RTI staff and get a very small taste of what some of those different programs look like, what those pathways look like. And we feel like that's been really helpful for them because they have a better idea of what the options are available. And so some of those students, then they come over, they get involved. Many of them have opportunities to get involved in those programs starting in 9th grade. Some of them have to wait, though, until their 11th grade. That's when that program starts. So this course in particular would be available to 9th and 10th graders, which I think is powerful. It gives them an opportunity to get started right away rather than having to wait until they're a junior. But the other beautiful thing about this course is that it has connections with many of our other pathways there, our other programs. And so students would be developing some of those just fundamental skills and knowledge that could be applied to other areas. So it's kind of giving them that nice runway, if you will, in 9th and 10th grade to then move into something else at 11th and 12th grade. This is a course that potentially could mean that we'll need to come back to you in the spring and request a new staff, a new FTE for. So we will put this in the course book as our goal to see what student interest looks like and if that has enough numbers to warrant being added for enrollment moving forward. And as Dr. Chapman mentioned, for our APR, we do get those extra bonus points when we have that career and technical expansion. So again, we want to do that for our students, but we also know there's that benefit as well. One of the other things that Dr. Chapman and his team have proposed in addition to this course is that that particular individual would have the flexibility to offer an adapted technical careers shop. So as you've heard us talk over the past couple of years about intro service to careers, our Bulldog Cafe at the high school, we are always looking for unique opportunities to help those students that have that IEP, that special population, to be able to prepare them for the next step. And Dr. Chapman's team recommended that they feel like this would be in a very appropriate course where they could provide that for students and create something a little more unique for them. So always excited when we have opportunities that look at those different populations and meeting their needs. Now that the work is done with just trying to get that course book description ready and printed and out to all of the different individuals, the high school and RTC staff really jump in this next couple of months in communicating that to all the very different stakeholders. So you can see there's a lot of different events coming up over the next 2 months. And all of that helps us then as we begin to think about what does our master schedule look like next year, what kind of staffing needs do we have, and where do we go from there. any questions or comments.
Do you think that I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Did you say that you're going to eliminate some things, or some things going to be eliminated from the course book?
So the ones that we're eliminating, we talked about this evening. The ones that I did not include in the presentation that we do have proposals for are all very minor revisions, so it's not deletions. For example, one of the classes at RTI, they're going to be using a new curriculum. So in their course description, they want to update the description to communicate what that new curriculum is. So it's no changes, correct. Anything that's a revision that's minor, I don't call those things out specifically. If it's a new course or a deletion, those are come
Did we
from.
still have Latin this year?
We did not. That was one
We
that
had
we.
no Latin
Correct.
classes at all?
Correct. We had a transition plan for the students who were kind of down that path already, and we did allow them to complete that pathway if they wanted to for their 4 years, but we did not hire a Latin teacher just due to lack of applicants, and so that was something we've kind of phased out. Yes, so that's been deleted. Last year, you guys approved that, to delete that.
Thank you.
You bet.
I was just going to ask you, do you think that our students and parents understand the value of summer school and taking care of some of those requirements so that their schedules free up the time for these other types of electives? Do you think that's something that our kids have a good understanding of, or?
I think so. I could be wrong, but I think so, based on our enrollment numbers and just the conversations that I hear students and parents have. It's something that's very clearly communicated to them and even advised that there are specific courses that are semester courses that if they take those during summer, that will allow them to have the opportunity to explore other things. And most of the courses that at the high school that we're offering, if it's not for credit recovery, they're requirements for graduation. So those students know that they have to take those things, and so they like to take them during the summer and check them off their list so that they can explore other things.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
When will you communicate? You talked about not offering social studies during the summer.
So that, we won't do it this summer because we have students who have planned for that. The high school has not yet determined if they want to move to that direction, but they have taken this first semester to really evaluate, beginning with their end-of-course assessment results. They've done some conversations with other districts who offer that as a year-long course, kind of looking at pros and cons. And so right now, they're trying some things first. They want to have an opportunity to try some things first to improve upon those assessment results before recommending that they change the format of the course. And primarily, that's because if they change it to a full year, it will have implications for their other offerings that they provide. And so they would like to have an opportunity to first do some other things before just switching the format.
It'll impact everybody's four-year plan.
It absolutely will, yes. So when we do that, we will have to communicate that very clearly and have a transition plan if we make that change. Yes, we're not anticipating to do that this year. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells.
I thought you needed an action.
It's all right.
I'll make a motion to
I'm trying to
approve
get us to
the
move quick.
25-26 course description book as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Next, we have comments. Sue?
I just want to say how nice it looks with all the brush out from around the middle school and, in front of RTI. It looks
Getting
beautiful.
better and better.
They've
Yeah.
really done a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
And I love the new doors around 10th Street, by the, where the theater is, the old gym, because those were looking pretty rough. And I was saying, oh, they changed those. So lots of good things going on. Band was wonderful. Mandy was there too. Her son's in the band, so it was great.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I would like to give a shout out to the wrestling teams. They unloaded the Christmas trees for the Optimist Club again this year.
wonderful.
That's fantastic.
That is great.
Workout for them.
Yeah,
They run from the high school to Kroger and then.
Yeah.
that's great. That's fun.
Dr. Deere, do you want to give an update just real quick on the plaque that we received for the track?
Yep, so back to our track naming process. We had a little snafu with the plaque. The first one that came in I think came in under the truck, maybe instead of on the truck, but they got that replaced quickly, so we do have the plaque in hand, and we'll work on getting the final details for that dedication for the Knapp Family Complex. So, yeah, it's
Wonderful.
exciting.
Wonderful. I'd like to call your attention to the written reports. We have attendance.
And Tracy, if I could, under upcoming dates, just call out, remind everybody about candidate filing, school board candidate filing.
Okay.
Closes Tuesday, December 31st at 5 PM. There are some dates in there that we are closed because of holidays and that kind of thing, but that is
Okay.
the official closing date. And then we were going to, we were having conversations about a work session with the board to have some preliminary financial impact, kind of big picture discussions, and wondered what, possibly doing a little something early on the 23rd. That's a normal meeting date, maybe coming in a couple hours early that date to do.
23rd of January.
Of January, yes.
Not December.
Did it again,
Don't
yeah.
panic.
He said that earlier, and I was
23rd of
thinking,
January as
We were like-
a potential, we can finalize details for you, but just wanted to know if that was an option.
works for me.
It does work for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
I put it
three-ish
on my
is what you're
calendar.
thinking, or,
yeah.
I bet 3-ish?
or I don't know, he said a couple hours.
Yeah, a
Two-ish?
couple hours, yeah. 2:33-ish, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll put together some information and get that finalized for you for next time.
All right. Any other comments? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go back into closed session.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.